Hello and welcome to the Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today we're looking at the collection Warlock by Jim Starlin from Marvel Comics. Adam Warlock began life as just a nameless MacGuffin, but he was destined for so much more. His first appearance came in a brief story arc in the pages of Fantastic Four. Inside a secret hidden complex on Earth called the Citadel of Science by its rather uncreative owners, a number of mad scientists attempted to make the perfect human, in the hopes of making an entire army of them to conquer the world with. Like I said, uncreative. Adam spent most of his first appearance represented by an unviewable wall of energy, and being referred to only as him. When that energy diminished, we still didn't see him, but rather the cocoon that was destined to become a staple of his powers. The cocoon helped him finish growing into the being he was meant to be, and when he finally emerged from it as a shiny golden god, he appeared only long enough to destroy his creators before leaving for outer space, swearing he would never return. Well, seemingly destroyed his creators anyway. They actually apparently turn out to be just fine, and like the idiots they clearly are, they would attempt the same experiment again in a Hulk annual that would create Paragon, a being that would again seemingly destroy its creators before leaving, and still later go on to become a female version of Adam called simply her. But that's not important right now. Back to him, his adventures would continue in a few issues of Thor, where we would learn that after leaving the Citadel of Science, him ran into an asteroid as part of a trap set by the Watcher. Not for him though, for asteroids, but that's besides the point. This nearly killed him, so he encased himself in a cocoon once more. The Watcher then sent him back to Earth, where he would emerge from the cocoon using the wrong voice line, and kidnap Sif, Thor's ladylove at the time. The god of thunder crossed the cosmos to rain mighty blows down on the golden human, until him retreated back into his cocoon and again fled into space. There, in the first few issues of Marvel Premiere, him would run across the High Evolutionary, a sort of semi-villain who manipulated his own genetics to make himself into a more evolved, supposedly superior human, much like had been intended with Adam. At the time, the High Evolutionary was working on creating Counter-Earth, a new version of Earth located on the opposite side of the sun with a version of humanity free from evil. However, thanks to another of the High Evolutionary's creations, the Man-Beast, evil would come to Counter-Earth after all. To save the fledgling world from the High Evolutionary's wrath, him offered to go to the planet and try to save it from its own evil. To prepare him for the task, the High Evolutionary gave him a strange jewel called the Soul Gem, and the name Warlock, to go along with his fancy new lightning bolt costume. So fancy. In the following issues, and in the pages of his own series, Warlock would also gain the first name Adam, as he continued his efforts to save Counter-Earth. His efforts finally ended in the pages of The Incredible Hulk, where Adam died and was born again! One last time before finally leaving Counter-Earth and heading out into the stars. That's where Jim Starlin found him, taking over new Adam Warlock stories as both writer and artist, in a story that would eventually lead to the Infinity Trilogy, covering Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, and Infinity Crusade. I've covered that entire series already, but if you're interested in learning how it all got started, then come with me as we take this away. The comic opens on a woman running for her life. Well, okay, technically it starts on a flashback explaining Adam's history, but I already covered that in the intro you definitely didn't skip, so you're already caught up on all that. So anyway, the woman who is running away from these goons is also running towards something, and that something is Adam Warlock. Guess she's having the same problem we all are. Nobody wants to lock strategist. Her pursuers are from something called the Universal Church of Truth, and Warlock is the only one that can save her. Or at least, so she thinks, but it looks like Adam gets a little too locked in as a DPS instead of doing his role as a healer. Typical. And she falls dead during the fight. With their sacred duty done, the bad guys peace out of there, not wanting to mess with Adam, leaving him alone to do some man brooding over the dead woman. And man, can Adam brood. I had forgotten just how much brooding this guy does. He could brood for his country. He could take gold in the Brood Olympics. Maybe that's why he is gold. Not wanting this unknown woman's death to be pointless, Adam decides he can get information from her using the mysterious soul gem on his forehead. So a quick burst of light and she's born again! Okay, sorry. I won't do that every excuse that I get, I promise. Also, she's not really born again. Warlock is essentially just animating her corpse, and her zombie self starts explaining about the Universal Church of Truth. The church worships a being called the Magus, and preaches a message of peace and love for all the universe. But only for its fellow Universalites. Truthers? Ookters. Nah, whatever. Everyone else in the universe is left with the choice of joining them, being tortured until they submit, or facing complete annihilation. I'm sure there's no parallels being drawn here with modern American Christianity. Don't you know comics weren't woke or political before like the last 10 years or so? That's what all the online people tell me, and obviously they wouldn't lie. Adam's lesson on church history is interrupted by the very god of the church, the Magus himself! Man, I love Starlin's art. It's so crazy. Speaking of crazy, the Magus sends Warlock through a trip down the rabbit hole, besetting him with demons and impossible dimensions before dropping the hardest of truth bombs. The fact that Warlock and the Magus are the same person. Magus and Warlock do both basically mean sorcerer, so the Magus deliberately named himself as a hint for Warlock as to his real identity. Despite learning that he is him and him is he, Warlock is convinced that the Magus and his evil church must be stopped. So he immediately sets out to do just that, coming across a starship belonging to the church. The ship's laser knocks Warlock out, and they take him captive. Down in the ship's dungeons, Warlock learns that along with being genocidal, the church is also racist. Speciesist? Well, basically, they don't like non-humanoids or anyone with deformities or the such. Those fitting such descriptions that can be made to do so are forced into slave labor, and the rest are killed. Those being held captive aboard this ship with Adam are destined for the latter, but they're planning a revolution and hope Adam will lead them. Adam refuses, continuing a trend of his Christ-like traits by telling the parable of Grak. Grak was a caveman on Earth who realized he was the mightiest of all, so appointed himself ruler of his tribe and made decisions for everyone, becoming Earth's first tyrant. Another caveman named Bok, dissatisfied with Grak's selfish rule, led Earth's first revolution. But once they overthrew Grak, Bok realized that he could just take Grak's place and start his own selfish rule. This, Adam is convinced, is the inevitability of any leadership, and doesn't want that for himself. The other prisoners just think he's chickening out though, so they start their rebellion without him. But Adam ain't no chicken, and he breaks free and begins ninja-ing his way through the guards before finding himself facing off with the ship's captain, Autolycus, in this epically illustrated fistfight. When it becomes clear in the fight that Autolycus can't win fair and square, he pulls a gun on Warlock. This seems to cause the soul gem on Adam's forehead to react, and it shoots a beam of light at the captain, sucking the man's soul into Adam, or into itself I guess, giving Adam a look into Autolycus's memories and killing the cap. Adam was not aware his soul gem was able to do this, and with horror, he realizes that the gem might be the very force that drives him to the level of madness that ends in him becoming the Magus. There's little time to worry about that for now though, and with the revolution a success and the slaves freed, Warlock decides it's time to move on. One of the prisoners, a troll named Pip, had buddied up to Warlock in the dungeons and decides to invite himself to join Adam on his quest for basically the rest of the story. Pip will explain in a later issue that he was once a human prince from the planet Laxadasia, but he was about as far removed from the throne as it is possible to get and still be royalty. One day, he stumbled upon a camp of trolls and decided to party with them. Like you do. And apparently, partying with a troll means becoming one, as Pip discovered when he woke up as one the next day. With his new troll temperament, Pip proved too much of a party animal for his lackadaisical people and was kicked out of his royal family. So he began traveling the universe as a self-absorbed coward, lech, and thief, and joins us here as he's meant to be the comic relief to Adam's brooding, monk-like existence. Personally, I don't find him funny though, just annoying. But Starlin clearly disagrees with me. Regardless of my feelings on the subject, Adam is in need of Pip's help, because Pip knows the way to and around Homeworld, the main planet controlled by the Universal Church of Truth. But the unlikely duo have barely arrived on that planet before Adam finds himself being remotely taunted by the Matriarch. The Matriarch is the humanly head of the church, kinda like the UCT's version of the Pope. But if she's a Pope, she's maybe a Borgia. It will be revealed eventually by the Magus himself that he found her in a house of ill repute, shall we say. But despite that, she had incredible intellect and the natural talent for leadership. So the Magus set her to lead his church and shared his biggest secret with her, that he isn't just the same person as Adam, he's Adam's future self. Which I thought was something we already assumed, but after Adam rises to the Matriarch's bait and leaves Pip behind to confront her, he seems shocked by this revelation. So shocked, in fact, that the Matriarch is able to drop him through a trap door. When he lands, Adam expects to find himself in a dungeon, but instead finds himself in a courtroom, presided over by a judge named Krator. And I love this guy. He's like an even sillier Zillia Sox. He's like a reptilian MODOK. Someone needs to make this guy into a chew toy I can give my dog. Krator, by order of the church, proceeds to take Warlock through a sham trial, introducing bogus witnesses accusing Warlock of having committed made-up crimes until he's found guilty on all charges and sentenced to death. In a rage at this miscarriage of justice, Adam actually directs his soul gem to swallow Krator's soul. Once again, this involves Adam gaining Krator's memories, and he realizes that despite the obviousness of the sham trial, Krator still thought what he was doing was the right thing. The Matriarch appears and beats this idea home by pointing out that everyone is a hero in their own mind, even her, and she's fully aware that her motivations are pure greed. She originally wanted Adam dead because that would kill the Magus at the same time, making her leader of the church. Only realizing that if he dies while still Adam, then he'll never become the Magus, and therefore the UCT will never come into existence in the first place. Time travel, yeah. She finds it better to keep him alive now and instead brainwash him into her mindless servant, hoping that this will let her gain control of the Magus in the future when everything comes back around. You with me? Yeah. So she sticks him in a VR helmet and puts him into a virtual environment for brainwashing where he's surrounded by a bunch of clowns? Nope. Nope, not doing that. We're not talking about the clown issue. I don't wanna. You can't make me. Let's talk about Pip. After being abandoned by Adam and not knowing what else to do, Pip does the only thing a troll can. Go to a bar and get drunk. While at the bar, he's approached by a mysterious woman looking for Adam Warlock, and somehow she already knows that Pip, who Adam literally just met, was hanging out with him. When Pip explains to her that Adam went to confront the Matriarch, this strange woman heads to the temple after him. Pip joins her, and together they fight some guards in an effort to learn where Adam has been locked up. The strange woman proves more than capable enough of defeating the guards, and one guard is even absolutely terrified of her simply upon seeing her. This gets Pip to finally demand to know who she is, and she explains that she is Gamora, the deadliest woman in the whole galaxy. That's cool, bro. Together, Gamora and Pip locate Adam to find he's already freed himself. It seems he couldn't stand being part of a story about clowns either, so he willingly faced his own madness, opening his mind and accepting it as part of himself in order to break free of the program. This drives Adam a bit mad at the same time, but also opens his cosmic awareness to make him realize that the Magus is nearby. So, in Wizard of Oz style, the Magus pulls aside the curtain to end the deception, and we finally get to meet this supposed god, face to silver afroed face. This reveal, I believe, is intended to confirm that the Magus has been telling the truth all along, that he really is Adam Warlock. Because despite being silver instead of gold, and having that silly afro instead of Warlock's luscious locks, and being notably more swole, they do have a number of similarities. Magus is wearing Warlock's old outfit with the lightning bolt for starters, even though since arriving on Homeworld, Warlock has actually adopted this more robe-like outfit that despite not having a recognizable symbol, I do feel manages to be a lot more iconic of a look for him. They also both have their soul gem pressed permanently to their foreheads, and Magus is able to mock Adam by saying Adam's lines at the same time Adam does, since he remembers being Adam and saying them back then. Back now. You get the idea. Magus then explains what's about to happen. He'll talk, and boy will he talk. And when he's done, Adam, refusing to accept the inevitable, will fight back. In response, Magus will blast Warlock with the Soul Gem, dousing Adam in radiation that will then attract a being called the In-Betweener to come after Adam. Pulled into the In-Betweener's insane realm, Adam will attempt to retreat into his protective cocoon, but the madness will still take him. When he finally emerges again, he'll find himself transformed into the Magus in 5,000 years in the past on a strange planet. He'll immediately conquer the planet and then set about forming the church, so that he can then put in motion all the things that we've seen happening since the start of the comic, with the goal of these trials to prepare Warlock's mind to embrace the madness. As the last few minutes tick down before the blast can happen, the Magus continues to taunt Warlock by taking him through a trippy landscape and a game of cat and mouse. Interestingly enough, he doesn't seem to notice Gamora's presence, but under the orders of a mysterious master of her own, she's waiting until the last possible second to attempt to strike at the Magus and stop him, which just leads to this rather unintentionally hilarious looking panel. It seriously looks like the Magus just accidentally backhands Gamora in his enthusiasm, but apparently he was able to detect her at the very last moment and the blow was actually intentional. But yeah, deadliest woman in the galaxy, by the way, stopped by an accidental looking backhand. With her attempt to rescue Adam from his fate a failure, Gamora's master feels it's time to finally reveal himself, and it turns out to be Thanos! Yeah, you probably guessed that. In case you're here and somehow don't know who Thanos is, hello! Welcome to Earth. I'm Ramsey. We have cotton candy. Also, the comic includes one of its many helpful recaps that explains all you probably need to know about him. Or you could go watch my Avengers vs. Thanos breakdown that covers basically the same stuff. It's a really old video though, so I wouldn't blame you for skipping it. Thanos, of course, has his own completely selfish reasons for helping Adam. He has his own desires for conquering the universe, and the Magus and the Universal Church of Truth stand in the way of his ambitions. The best way to remove this threat is, of course, to prevent Adam from becoming the Magus in the first place. His first plan for dealing with that was Gamora. Gamora comes from a race that doesn't yet exist called the Zen Hubris, who all end up being wiped out by the Church in their efforts of galactic peace. All of them except for Gamora, because Thanos saved her. Thanos probably could have saved more of them, or maybe even all of them, but he wanted a child Gamora to watch her entire race be wiped out to create a burning flame inside of her that he could then use to forge her into a weapon, making her the deadliest woman in the galaxy. Just in case you forgot. Thanos was hoping to stay out of the fight altogether, but with Gamora's failure, he's forced to intervene now and help the team escape. He holds off the Church's army while the others get away. As Adam gets closer to becoming the Magus, he starts somehow gaining the Magus's memories, and that allows them to escape through the hidden tunnels beneath the complex. But there, they run across the matriarch as she dies. The Magus felt the need to punish her for her betrayal, even though that very betrayal was in the plan all along, and why he had put her in place to begin with. But you know, bad guys. Thanos rejoins the others and then teleports them all to his ship, Sanctuary 1, but by this point, the Magus has figured out who his secret opponent is and shows up to Sanctuary with an army in order to stop his interference. Overwhelmed by all these warriors, Adam caves to Thanos' prompting and sucks the souls of all of the army into his soul gem. This leaves Thanos the opportunity to go 1v1 with the Magus, while Adam dives into what they're calling a time probe, allowing him to enter this bizarre dimension that he calls Kismet. Fun trivia, Kismet is the name Her will eventually go by. the Adam's female counterpart I mentioned earlier. Here in Kismet, this Kismet, Adam's lifeline is represented by a bridge that splits off in different directions. One of those directions is blackened by evil, and Adam realizes that must be the branch of his life that leads to him becoming the Magus. The in-betweener shows up then, but it's okay. The black half is on the left side of his body, so he's fine. As long as the black half isn't on the right side, you know what I'm saying? Or was it the other way around? I forget. Anyway, the in-betweener reveals that despite his evil ways, the Magus is still somehow the champion of life, while Thanos is the champion of death, something Thanos apparently already knew. Despite this, Adam still feels he has to do something to stop his future self, so he uses his soul gem to purify the dark timeline and then destroys it. To finish the act, he goes into the timeline to end his own life. There he meets a tired and angry older version of himself and is surprised to learn that only a few months have passed. This future Adam is ready for death, having seen all he achieved fall into ruin and all his loved ones die. So past Adam puts his future self out of his own misery by using the soul gem to devour his soul, ending his own life. So no longer having a purpose here, the in-betweener leaves to go back to wherever it is that in-betweeners come from, and the Magus fades out of existence altogether, as does his Universal Church of Truth. As Thanos will explain, those central enough to this event will remember what happened, but everyone else will forget about it, because for them, none of it will have ever happened. So their dirty work done, Adam and Pip, as Pip had gone with Adam into Kismet, find themselves suddenly back in reality, on Homeworld even. Only a version of Homeworld never scarred by the UCT. Adam thinks he sees the matriarch for a second, but dismisses it and follows Pip to a bar so they can celebrate their victory. There, Pip plans on living up to his troll nature by spending the rest of his life partying, probably primarily on Adam's dime. But Adam can't get over his brooding long enough to enjoy himself and takes off to go brood alone on an asteroid, where he will come to notice that the stars are disappearing. This is the work of the Star Thief, who it will turn out is a human from Earth named Barry Bowman. Barry was born without any of his 5 senses, so he's basically catatonic. Because his father is on the chair of a hospital, that hospital has kept him alive anyway. It's this very catatonic state that freed Barry's mind, allowing him to develop powers far beyond a normal human being. And he uses that to start snuffing out the stars in the hopes of scaring all humans on Earth so that they can know suffering similar to his own before he kills them as well. Seeing as how it takes at the least about 4.5 years for any starlight whatsoever to reach the Earth, and many more years in most cases, it should take a very long time before anyone actually starts noticing that anything has changed. Or so you would think. But instead, people seem to start noticing immediately and freaking out about it, just as you might expect. Although, then again, after the past few years, I'm kind of convinced that instead, most people would probably just call the astronomers complete idiots who are needlessly fear-mongering and go about their lives as though nothing was happening after all, which actually would really suck for Barry's plan, but, whatever. Warlock becomes aware of this, just as inexplicably, from his brooding rock in space, as I mentioned, and his soul gem informs him that it's a man from Earth causing this. So he attempts to head to Earth, but Bowman, sensing Warlock's approach, attempts to stop him, besieging him with beings of earth, wind, fire, and water, as Adam says a Warlock is a master of these things. Which isn't actually a definition of Warlock that I'm familiar with, outside of maybe like World of Warcraft, but I'm sure Starlin probably got that from something. That probably was supposed to sound a little less sarcastic than it did. Warlock defeats all the creatures Star Thief raises and finally arrives at Earth, only to find he can't go to Earth. In a rather ridiculous twist, due to the expanding of the universe, Adam's cosmic journeys have also expanded him. So now he's too big to return to the Earth, which has also made him incorporeal for some reason. So there's nothing he can do about the Star Thief anyway. Luckily, Bowman's personal nurse, who had been controlled by Barry's mind for years and was the only other person in the universe to know Barry's secret, finds himself suddenly freed as the Star Thief's attention slips too much to Adam. Reacting quickly, the nurse kills Barry, ending his reign of terror before it can really get started. But no one believes him that he saved the universe from an invalid. That poor guy. Adam then rages over his inability to return home and is shot with some very poor framing choices. Yikes. So he flies off to brood some more, like he does, ending up getting into a mental battle with his own soul gem, where he finally asserts dominance and declares himself to be in control of it, despite having felt earlier like he was losing control. We also see Thanos and Gamora off to look for Adam Warlock. As for reasons, Thanos doesn't want her around and desires someone to keep an eye on Warlock for him. Before she finds Warlock, though, she's attacked by Drax the Destroyer, who is looking for Thanos. And sadly, that's where the series ends, so we never really get a conclusion to this. While it seems clear Starlin intended to reunite Adam, Gamora, and Pip for further adventures, he's instead forced to wrap the remaining loose ends up in a couple special crossover comics. These open on Adam finding Gamora half dead on a planetoid, but not from the attack by Drax. Instead, Thanos did this to her. As will later be revealed, sometime after the Drax attack, Gamora discovered that Thanos had plans to essentially complete the Star Thief's work of total stellar genocide, or wiping out all the stars in the universe. She attempted to stop her adoptive father, but he turned on her, attacked her, and left her for dead, which is where we find her. To end her suffering, Adam takes her soul into his gem and then heads off to Earth, which he can now visit just normally for reasons unexplained, but it's probably better to ignore that this ever happened. Yikes. Adam meets with the Avengers and recaps the history of Thanos, and also explains the plan as he's learned it from Gamora's memories. Thanos has been at work gathering what Adam calls the 6 soul gems, 5 gems that are counterparts to the one he wears on his own forehead. These are, of course, the Infinity Gems, but they don't know that yet. Not even Thanos knows that, which is why Thanos has opted to drain energy from them rather than use them himself, and then siphons all that energy into a single gem container that he can then fire like a Death Star at an actual star to destroy it. Thanos has then set his sights on Earth, possibly due to it being the location of his defeat against Captain Marvel previously, and the Avengers head into space to stop him. Warlock doesn't join them, simply vanishing after he's done with his explanation, but as the Avengers fight their way through Thanos' minions, Captain Marvel runs across Adam and a catatonic Pip. Pip, unaware of everything going on, had shown up to Sanctuary 1 looking for Gamora and Warlock, assuming that they were still all a team. But Thanos, who likes Pip about as much as I do, destroyed Pip's spine and left him technically alive, but effectively dead. Oh no, not Pip. So Adam does as he did for Gamora, taking Pip's soul into his gem, and then he joins Captain Marvel in trying to stop Thanos. But after throwing only a single punch, Thanos blasts Adam with something, and Adam simply falls over, seemingly dead. The Avengers manage to destroy the main gem, stopping Thanos' plans, and while they're busy, we again get to see the death of Adam Warlock, but this time from the other side. As the current timeline, Adam Warlock has just lost his only 2 friends, and is unaware that his mission hasn't failed, he welcomes the death brought by the past Adam Warlock, and he too is sucked into the soul gem. But that's not the end for him, as inside the gem is a kind of paradise, filled with the souls of all the ones we've seen taken before, like Gamora, Pip, Autolycus, Krator the Chew Toy, and the troops of the Magus, and they all live there happy and at peace. So Adam joins them all, finally content and at rest inside his own soul gem. But the story still doesn't end there. Despite losing his primary gem, Thanos defeats and captures the Avengers in stasis, then realizes he can still use Adam's soul gem to destroy our sun. The cosmic beings, known as Chaos and Order, decide to intervene though, sending a psychic call to Spider-Man, who then recruits Ben Grimm so they can get up into space. Of course, the 2 of them aren't able to do alone what the Avengers and the cosmic superheroes with them had been unable to do. They fare well enough against Thanos' regular army, but Thanos himself shows up and easily defeats the Thing, prompting Spider-Man to immediately and very bravely run away. He's just like, this feels like an Avengers gig, and nopes on out of there. Though he quickly has a change of heart and swings back undetected to be like, don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man! And then smashes the stasis device holding the Avengers, freeing them. But once again, the combined might of all these heroes doesn't prove enough to defeat Thanos, and one by one, Thanos knocks them down until Chaos and Order again feel the need to intervene. This time, they direct Spidey toward the Soul Gem, and though Spidey doesn't really know what it is, he breaks it from the protective barrier Thanos had placed on it, and in doing so, Adam is suddenly born again! Okay, I know what I said, but I had to do it one more time. It's the comedic rule of threes. I don't make the rules, okay? This isn't regular Adam, obviously, but instead a fiery, spiritual version of him, and when he attacks Thanos, the Titan is turned into stone. With their leader defeated, Thanos' army surrender, and the Avengers return home with Adam's body, which they promptly give a proper burial to next to Gamora and Pip. But of course, the three of them are actually living still in the paradise inside the Soul Gem, where they will remain until the universe calls upon them again. But I've already covered that story, so that just means we need to get to the breakdown. Honestly, I don't think this comic aged super well, and not just because of the insistence on calling women lass in the first few issues. What even is that? Was that a thing at the time? Or was that just supposed to make it feel more fantasy? Pip being there doesn't really help either, though he's in mercifully little of the comic. There's also the Magus' design, which is hilariously bad at best, or possibly offensive at worst. And there's the over-explanation of concepts, heavy-handed narration, and the endless recaps which were common for the time but are a bit grating now. But despite all of that, there is a lot to like about this story. I'm really into the plot overall, with or without Adam's constant brooding. And the best part of the comic is definitely Starlin's art, particularly in the way he worked to push past standard panel layouts with all of his trippy ones. And I enjoy all the in-story reasons he comes up with to justify doing this. So I'm giving this series a recommendation level of medium. Overall, I think it's an interesting and fun slice of Marvel history, and well worth your time for what it offers if you're interested in the character at all. The collected edition gets 1. Warlock Lightning Bolt, which is a good thing. A really good thing, honestly. The collection is 11 regular issues, 2 giant-sized issues, and includes the art for an entire bonus lost issue that never saw print, while still including a bunch of promotional and bonus art and a cover gallery of all the different times these stories were collected. This collection is absolutely packed, and I love that for it. Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. We got more Marvel Rivals themed character breakdowns coming up for you that I'm hoping to use to kind of slide into covering some X-Men comics. I'll probably hit a few more New 52 comics as I then try to transition into doing more of the Marvel big event stories that I started last year. I kind of want to get through all the big Marvel event stories eventually. Those are really fun to cover. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, or you did enjoy this video, or you're just a super cool person with a super cool haircut, then be sure to like and subscribe and all those YouTube things so you can help the channel out, and so you can help yourself to be sure to be here next time, and I hope to see you then, right here in the Comic Cave.